All right, Nick, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks with head coach Mike Macdonald. We know through the draft, some of the most meaningful picks, most interesting picks we're going to see is on the defensive side of the ball. That is what he is known for. And there's one position in particular I think they need a lot of help, and that was the linebacker position. And they may have got it in an interesting kind of steal of a draft pick in Tyrese Knight. Let's get into the article and talk more about it on the other side. This is from All Seahawks. It says, the Seahawks need some new production at linebacker position after Bobby Wagner left the team in free agency. The team addressed the need in last week's draft with NFL draft with UTEP's Tyrese Knight, whom Seattle selected in the 4th round. Knight has a lot of potential, especially after being given the stamp of approval from new head coach Mike Macdonald, who's been a linebacker coach during his career and helped Patrick Queen turn into a Pro Bowler in Baltimore alongside Roquan Smith. He said, I think he brings some thump at the point of attack. And when we brought him in, we got him to meet him, and we just really liked the person and the competitor, McDonald said. His demeanor's soft-spoken right now. I think he's a very clear communicator and a guy throughout the process that we really started to like. Linebackers are paid to make tackles, and he makes lots of tackles, so that is a good thing. Again, from over on All Seahawks. I think this is a really interesting steal of a draft pick, Nick. I'm curious what your thoughts on Knight are, but Seahawks fans in the comments section below, a lot of picks, a lot of undrafted free agents are rolling in. Maybe let us know, who is your favorite potential undrafted free agent to make the roster out of the squad they've gotten so far. Let us know who you're thinking, who you're liking in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts about Knight?
So I think Tyrese Knight is the classic example of a guy who falls in the draft because he plays football at a high level, but he doesn't play football the way some NFL evaluators, whether it's media or talent evaluators on teams, think the way the game should be played. And let me explain. The criticism against Tyrese Knight is that he plays sometimes a little bit out of structure, that he sometimes is a little hyper aggressive, can sometimes be too pursuit driven, sometimes can overrun plays every once in a while. He just plays the game a little bit differently. And a lot of talent evaluators, scouts, GMs, executives, they don't like that. They like boring. They like something they can understand. But there's one thing Tyrese Knight can do, and that's make plays. And like the report alluded to, you're paying a linebacker to make plays. If you've got a guy who can make plays, he's exactly who you want to bring on your football team, regardless of everything else. This is a guy who, if you go through his numbers, was incredibly productive. In 2021, he had 102 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, an interception, and 2 forced fumbles. In 2022, he led his team with 95 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss with a sack, a pick, and 2 forced fumbles. And then last season, he stepped it up, led the FBS, the country, in solo tackles with 84, tied for 6th in the country with a buck 40 tackles, led the team with 15.5 tackles for loss. I'm going to say that again. 15.5 tackles for loss. That's an incredible amount for a linebacker. 4.5 sacks, 7 pass breakups, and a forced fumble to round out his stat sheet. This guy makes plays, and he does it in a dynamic, exciting, aggressive manner. And there's a lot of people, when they look at the linebacker position, they seem to be just caught up in this old school mentality where, hey, listen, I just want a linebacker to maybe play off a block a little bit and make the tackle in a running game after a 5-yard run. Right? That's what they kind of want the linebacker position to be. That's what people expect them to be. Or, hey, I want this linebacker to drop into zone coverage, and then when they hit the check down, he comes up and makes a tackle for a 7-yard gain. Right? That's what these guys look for in linebackers, and it's very bizarre to me. Right? There's a reason you got guys that come out of college football, like a Micah Parsons, who fell to the Dallas Cowboys outside the top 10, and he immediately became one of the best defensive players of football because a lot of evaluators didn't like the way Micah Parsons played linebacker at Penn State. They thought he was too reckless. They didn't know where he would fit in the NFL. Tyrese Knight, while not as athletically gifted as Parsons, falls under the same category, right? He is just a really darn good football player, and he makes plays better than almost anybody in the country, but yet he fell in the draft because he makes a lot of talent evaluators nervous for how he goes about it. I think this is a chance to be arguably one of the best moves of the draft. The Seahawks had a number of them, but I really think Tyrese Knight is going to be a dynamic playmaker for the Seattle defense.
Yeah, Nick. And McDonald talks about liking Knight, the person, as well. And there's a lot to like because he has a great story coming in. He was a no-star recruit. Not many teams, offered him. Actually, a lot of his offers got pulled right at the end. So he had to start the JUCO route. And, that builds character, having to work for it, having to go through it. Obviously, he gets over to UTEP. He played every single game at UTEP, never missed a game. This is a guy, you love to hear, no injury history. And we talk about this all the time. He got better every year. Let's look at 2021. Honorable mention for All CUSA. Next year, second team All Conference USA player. Finally, his third year, 2023, first team All Conference USA, led Conference USA in tackles and tackles for loss as well. Like you said, he can make a lot of plays, and he's gotten better every single year that he has been in the college football world. But you talked about it, his overzealousness, his over pursuit. I like it because, like you said, that's something that can't be coached. The aggressiveness. You can dial someone back. It's always harder to dial someone up. And in Dane Brugler's The Beast, he kind of touches on that about Knight. And he says some things that I think are very interesting in his analysis. He goes, high motor guy, but this is a guy whose motor didn't come with cruise control. This is a guy who can only go all out. And I love that. They said, he's a rabid dog against the run. He plays with instinct, personality. That helps lead to his production. He just seems kind of like the guy that you want at the linebacker position. He's the guy you want on your defense. And I think it's like McDonald said, he's kind of soft-spoken, but I think he's saying through his play and aggressiveness on the field, that's how he's going to build his leadership ability. And like I said, I love this pick for Seattle. I think it's going to fit Mike McDonald's defense beautifully. I think we're going to see a future star in the NFL here.
I agree with all that. And it just, to me, just boggles my mind, right? Where you've got people that don't like a prospect like this because he plays with too much intensity or he has too much of a motor. Look, give me the guy that can make a bunch of tackles and a bunch of tackles for loss and force some fumbles and get some sacks over a guy who plays with a decent, a more moderated motor. Give me the playmaker over the guy who's just trying to just hang around. You've got a playmaker here in Tyrese Knight. I think he's going to have a great career with the Seattle Seahawks. Great pickup. Once again, John Schneider and Mike McDonald. They got a really good one right here.